Oh, I'm going to hit the recording button, Barbara.
All right,
And
let's do it.
we are recording a podcast, Justin Answer. This is Justin Dunn, and I am here with my good friend and fellow entrepreneur. What is that? I'll leave you to find that out. Dr. Barbra Zuckerman Portzline. Dr. Portzline, hey Barbara, is the founder of an incredible organization called Organizational Rebel. Now, what is that? We're going to discuss all of that in the upcoming 20 to 30 minutes. But what I want to say is that very seldom do I meet people who combine the intellect in business with intuition. Now, how do you teach that? Well, you almost can't. And that's why you got to spend the big bucks and work with someone like Barbara or me to be able to come in and see things that you cannot see within your business. It goes beyond the exterior viewpoint. It goes beyond that third party outside view, because now we're talking about someone who has an ability to perceive things that are outside the normal perceptions of human beings. Now, what's the value of that? I think Barbara's going to reveal to us what value that brought to some of her clients. But if I'm not mistaken, that's in the 6 and 7 figures. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong. You are not wrong.
I thought so. Welcome, Barbara. Thank you so much for joining me today.
So glad I'm here. This is going to be a lot of fun, so I'm super jazzed about it.
So am I, actually, because as I said in the intro, it's not that often that I meet people who combine those two things. I often meet people who are intuitives, and I often meet people who are intellects. Mm-hmm. But put the two together, you get a nuclear explosion.
I just need one more skill, and then I'm a triple threat. So I just need one more. I'm not sure what that's going to be yet.
Oh, I think we talked about it before we recorded. But but you'll get there, and I'm sure you will. So why don't we start off? Because what I'd like to do today is for us to reveal your story, for us to find out who you are, and forget today and what you do, because that's obviously incredible. But bring us up to today. Why are you who you are? Why do we care about Dr. Barbra? I mean, seriously, where have you come from?
That's a great question. I could speak probably the entire interview on it, so I'll try to give you the short version.
Yeah.
But the short version is that I grew up in New York, and my parents actually were more of the hippie generation, and which was pretty fun. And it was also a little bit challenging because I grew up in an area in Long Island where most of the people there were not hippies. Most of the people there, had a lot of money, and there were like it was a very materialistic place that I grew up in, and my family was not. Yuppies and princesses and all of that kind of fun stuff. So, it was a little challenging as a child because I wanted all of these material things that everyone else had, and even though I had enough, I felt deprived, and it wound up making me get to this place where I really spiraled out of control when I was on my own. So when I left my family and went to college and went out into the workforce, I wound up buying a whole bunch of stuff that I always wanted when I was younger. I found credit cards, and I found, I was, I know, look at the big eyes there. I was relatively smart. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm making decent money. I have all these credit cards. I can go and buy all this stuff I wanted. And I had really skewed view around things and people, and I purchased a lot of things to feel better about myself. Like, I didn't realize at that time how empty I was inside. And I literally went and bought a whole bunch of stuff. And on the outside, it looked great. I had big time imposter syndrome. So on the outside, it looked great. I had everything that I could possibly want materialistically, but inside I was really empty. And one of the things that I did for many years was I worked like a crazy person. So I would work. And I was not really connected to that intuitive woo-woo side that I say. I was very like left brain. Like, I went to school, I got degrees, certifications, I started my own business. I was doing, and I was really not connected to who I was at the core. And eventually it all just turned to crap pretty much. Like I lost everything. I lost my house. I lost, I had to claim bankruptcy. Like everything was a disaster. And I realized that I needed some help and support, and I just had never gotten it. And so I wound up getting some help from some business coaches, and I wound up quieting my mind just a little bit and going inside and finding this strength and this ability that I never knew I had. And I'll just leave it at that. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
kind
I mean,
of where I came from.
that's absolutely fantastic, because I think a lot of people can relate to that. I know I can. I know as soon as I got out to university, I went to Northwestern in Chicago. I was like, "Ooh, freedom!" And then I'm like, all those things that mom and dad used to say, "No, we can't afford that. We can't afford that." All of a sudden, I'm like, "Oh, look at that! Citibank is offering free credit." So I'm like,
Yep.
"Yay! I can now afford all these things." And I got myself
Mhm.
into massive and heavy debt. And it's delayed gratification is something I still work on, to be frank with you. I'm,
Right.
I'm, I put myself on the waiting list for that new Tesla truck, you know.
You only had to put down $100 though,
I
right?
know,
So
I
it
know.
wasn't that
And that's what
bad.
I'm telling myself, is that I only have to put down $100. I can't afford the truck right now, but I'm
Right.
telling myself I will be able to afford it in 2021 when it comes out, God willing. Anyway, so, so the point is that I can relate to that. And I know so many other people can. I know so many people who end up empty and suicidal because that material stuff doesn't equal happiness. It helps, it's nice. My grandfather said, I'd rather be rich and sick than poor and sick. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
But at the same time, I'd rather be happy above all else. And so what do you want? What is it that you want to accomplish?
So at that point in my life, it actually, I went up and down for many years, and things were a disaster. And I lost a lot of relationships. I lost friends. I lost money. I lost all of these things. And I was at that point where I wasn't quite suicidal, but I was at my lowest point, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. And something kicked in. When you're at that point, when you're at that like rock bottom point, you make a decision. Am I going to go on, or am I going to just leave this planet, or what am I going to do? And something kicked in that was like, I don't know if you call it like, it wasn't like the angels singing over my head, but it was one of those kind of transformational experiences where it was like, quiet your mind, listen for guidance, and see what's next. And I wound up meeting all of these people that were super woo woo and like just complete, like, I grew up in like this very sheltered area in Long Island, and it was like, anyone that did anything that I didn't understand was woo woo. Anyone that went outside was granola. I had all of these like ideas in my head, and somehow I just kept meeting all of these people that were healers and massage therapists and doctors of oriental medicine, and like all of these people were near me, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, they all are here to fix me. And I'm like, oh, I'm one of them. And so finally I was able to get that switch flipped. And when I did that, I realized that part of my passion is to help people have the short road, because I took the long road to get to a business that is really sustainable, and that's intentional, and that makes money. And I wanted to like cut that process for people. And I realized I didn't want people to go through all of the pain that I did. I wanted them to be able to do things quickly. And so that's really what my purpose is to help entrepreneurs and business owners like break through whatever their perceived blocks are. And I say perceived because I don't really see them as blocked. I see them as things that are, that they perceive, and show them that they can move through that as long as they're intentional. Because I think, we have this thing where like, you can be super intentional. Like, I want to manifest $1 million. I'm going to do my mantras every day. I'm going to go out there. And, I've tried it and it doesn't flip and work. And I've also taken a ton of action and throwing spaghetti against the wall and like tried to make things stick. And that didn't work either. You did that too. So I really feel like you need both. You need intention and action to make that magic in your business. And that's really what I teach people.
That's fantastic, obviously, because I've tried exactly what you've tried. And I can say, do you know what? It doesn't work either.
Don't worry.
There's
Yeah.
something else that is working that's creating the solutions. Either that or I am Satan incarnate with super negative thoughts I'm not aware of. Because if that stuff was actually true, then, you know, I've literally spent 6 hours a day, you know, with all those, you know, mechanisms.
Yep.
And still, you know, and so maybe karma, you know, there's probably 1,000 different explanations for it. The bottom line is if you can help us with the short road to success as opposed to the scenic route with all the pitfalls and snake bitten, you know,
Yep.
that's what everybody wants, is not a shortcut, but if you have two paths in front of you and the scenic route is not the pleasant one, that's the one that
Right.
leads to the abyss, and you have this other one that is, you know, relatively painless, not effortless, but painless. You have intention, you have action, and then you have manifestation.
Yep.
I am. I am.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's a I like
Yep.
to, I'm thinking woo woo now. So what are you
Yeah.
dealing with? So what kind of stuff are you dealing with, Barbara, right now? Because this is about you.
Okay.
We get that you can create transformational and huge results for other people, and we're going to obviously talk a tiny bit more about that in a minute. But what about you? What are you dealing with right now?
It's a great question. So 2020 is really interesting for me. It's, you know, I'm being called to pivot in the work that I do a little bit. And um, it's a little scary for me because for several years, I've really worked in one area. I've been helping business owners break through their perceived blocks to increase their income. And that has been my focus. And it comes in many, many different packages and different ways. And I partner with Terry Levine, who you interviewed as well, and a lot of work for Entrepreneur. And so that has been my main focus. But I actually have had a personal crisis this past fall, which has shifted things for me. And so I'm in this place where I still love the work I do. I still know that that's my passion and my purpose. And I am being called to pivot to help families in a different way, which is really, really interesting. I'm not ready to like blast out, you know, all my new ideas yet. I still have to talk to my business coach and talk to her and all of these things first. But it's really interesting because one of the things I had learned from Terry was about having one focus, one goal. And you have one thing that you're focusing on, one thing that you're good at. And then it's like spirit, universe, whatever it is calling me and like is like hitting me over the head with these spiritual 2x4s. Like, yeah, you want to do that? No, we're going to make you do this. No, we're going to give you this. So me personally, just like everyone else,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I sometimes battle with what is my true path, and mine is shifting a little.
I'm so glad you said that, because if someone as successful as you, with a track record like you, with a title like yours, doctor, so seriously, there's credentials there. There's something there. Some people disrespect that kind of stuff. You know, my old piano teacher used to say PhD stands for piled higher and deeper. You know,
I agree with that sometimes.
and I get it. I really do get it, because I considered going that route myself, and then I saw people. And and I interviewed Dr. I won't say his name because I don't want to defame anybody, but I interviewed a famous philosophy professor. I took him to coffee with my mom, and I had his book, and I realized after an hour, the guy could not philosophize. He had a beard.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like a
You looked the
philosopher,
part, yeah.
but he was an encyclopedia. I mean, he could tell you what page Aristotle said what,
Love it.
but he could not construct a philosophical concept. He could not generate an idea. He could only quote and tell you who said what, and he was very good at that. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't want to do that.
No.
I want to be able to actually do the philosophizing.
Yep.
I want to be the next. I mean, I'm not positing myself or positioning myself as like Plato or Aristotle, but I'm saying I want to be the next,
Yeah.
Socrates. I don't want to just be the guy who knows everything Socrates said, because then I'm just what? Then I'm an actor who's memorized his lines,
Right.
which I did for 10 years. So that's when I said, I don't want that, because whether it's economics, whether it's communication, whether it's philosophy, whatever the field of subject is, I don't want to be the guy who just is able to parrot what other people said. I want to be able to share my own and original ideas. And, and so that I can completely relate to that. And I can completely relate to that sort of internal, topsy-turvy, hurdy-gurdy you're going through right now, because me too, I'm going through the same thing myself. I'm just like, what do I want to do in my life? So I think it's a great opportunity for people like us, because I will share with you the idea that I had, and I will share with you something else. I'm going to use a little prop. I don't know why. I'm not a magician, but I have a magic wand. And so you have spheres of influence.
Mm-hmm.
This is an interview. I should not be doing this. I apologize.
No, this is totally fine.
So,
everything goes.
because I'm thinking for myself, I'm a bit selfish. I'm thinking for myself too. So you have, I do this, and you have to be focused on one thing. But what if what we're saying is not, I want to focus here now, something completely different? What if what we're actually saying is, I'm focused, this is my focus now, and now I'm focusing here. So in other words, my sphere is just becoming larger. So for example, instead of saying, I'm a business strategist, say, well, actually, I focus on information, inspiration, and ideation, and innovation. Well, that could be in business, that could be in health, that could be in relationships. It's not losing, in my opinion, it's not, and I could be dead wrong about it. I'm not in the league of, or pretending I'm in the league of a Terry Levine or a Joel Bauer with mentoring and coaching people. But what I'm trying to reconcile in my own mind is, am I losing focus, or is my vision just getting bigger?
Yep. And mine is just pivoting. It's like a little, it's not like a whole 360. It's like just a little pivot. But I think that's powerful. And I think that that's what happens with entrepreneurs. You go down one route, and all of a sudden something feels like you might want to just pivot over a little bit to something else. And
so what is that? So what is that in what you're currently doing? What is it that you hit that made you sort of pivot, that you hit it and then you're like, oops, and it sent you off to the left?
For me, I had a family crisis that I needed some supports and some things in my state, which there aren't any. And that to me led me to feeling like that's something that's really important to help other families not go through what I went through. Similar as with business, not to have business owners go through what I went through, when there's a much more efficient and quicker way to get to the goal. And so that's kind of what I'm doing now with this other venture that I'm looking at, is about helping families, again, which is, business, personal, everything is helping families find a quicker and easier way to get to what their goal is. And yeah, for me, it's just more of the same. It's just a little bit of a pivot, and it's exciting. It's exciting, making a difference in people's lives and making things easier. I feel like one of the things that I have throughout my life, I've been put here, I've been challenged many, many times. And each time, regardless of what drama, whatever it has been in my life, I always find something that's a learning that I wish I would have known before, or I wish I could have done something differently. And passing that on is part of my higher spiritual gift to folks, whether it's relationship advice, personal advice, business advice, all of those things. I've been through a lot, and I wouldn't change any of it, because it's helping me help others.
That's, again, very fantastic, because a lot of people either retain those lessons selfishly, or they don't even learn the lessons, or they let those kind of dramas
Mhm.
cave them in, shut them down, and there you go. So
Yeah.
turning that into an opportunity is really, really cool. And what you're doing when it comes to, you realize there was an issue that you didn't get help with,
Mhm.
and you now want other people to have help with that.
Yep.
That's a winning combination right there. I mean, that's as a quick example, when I was advising a charity here locally, that's how I did it. I said, look, there's a gap in the market. If you want to win your funding, if you want to win your charitable status and become a bona fide nonprofit organization with funding, then you need to fill this gap that has been abandoned for the last 3 years. You do that, and they'll throw the money at you because you do everything else that you're trying to do here, and they won't give you money because they're just going to say you don't need money for that. You could, if it's just to create a social group for people like that in that category, just do it. You don't need money for that. Just go and hang out at the bar or whatever. So if you want the funding, you need to fill that gap, and that's exactly what they did in last May. And it worked. I mean, it worked very quickly and very well because they got their status, they got the funding, and things are really rock and rolling now. What is it, 6-8 months later, and they're expanding and growing, and I'm expecting it to continue because they are providing a legitimate bona fide service here locally. And it's a small, I mean, there's a quarter of a million population here in Nottingham, roughly. So it's not a huge, giant city, right? But
Right.
it is a city with needs, and this charity is servicing those needs in a meaningful way. And so that's how we figured it out, though. We said,
Yeah.
what's missing? And now how do we make sure that people aren't continuing to suffer? And that's exactly what you're doing. And so that's almost like, is am I on the right track? Am I perceiving, is that what you're doing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's about really having my eyes open and
Mm-hmm.
seeing what those needs are. And then um, a lot of times it's easier to fix other people's stuff than to look at your own. And so I couldn't see it when I was in it, how to fix things. But now that I have a step back, it's like, yeah, this is, there's a need here that I'm working on. And, it's something, so what I'm doing, I mean, not to be like super secretive, because I really I haven't spoken it yet that it's going to happen, but there's a need that I'm seeing in a lot of the business owners that I work with, which is confidence. And I'm seeing that with kiddos too, after some things that happened in my world. And so that's really, it's really interesting because I work with business owners on confidence. Like that's a very important thing. Like it's, to have a business, you have to have a level of confidence. You have to be able to speak your truth and say how you feel, and, hold firm and set boundaries and all of these things that I really think is instrumental in growing a business. And I see it in families too. I see like there's just so much in our system that is broken a lot of times, and people don't have the confidence to advocate for themselves and to make changes. And so that's really the biggest piece for me lately, like helping people really step into their power and feel like they can do whatever it is they want to do.
And I think that's great. And partly it's because the family is, realistically speaking, and
Hmm.
I know that our definitions of family have stretched and changed and modified over the years, and that's great. But regardless of all of that, the family is the building block of society. I think, and this is just my opinion, that the concept of it takes a village is damaging. And
Hmm.
here's the reason why. It's not that community support isn't necessary. It absolutely is. It's not that it doesn't take a community to thrive, flourish, prosper, and have a successful family. It does. But the community is built from families.
Hmm.
And the reason that concept has done some damage is because many people, and I know this for a fact, I've spoken to friends who believe this, say that they now disregard the family as something not important, as
Hmm.
something that is not important, Maybe they had a broken home, and so they didn't have a good example of that doesn't negate the importance of a family.
Yep.
It's the building blocks of the society. And so if you can do things to help, to bolster, to nurture families,
Mm-hmm.
you are then automatically nurturing, building the village, the society, whatever you want to call it. Because, yeah, it takes a village, but there ain't no village without the families. It's not going to be composed of a bunch of individuals. That's not going to happen. That's a failing philosophy and outlook. And it's fine if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. And
No, I
so,
agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I
so
think
what's the
there.
plan then, Barbara? What's the plan? What's the
Well,
plan?
let me get my pencil and try to figure it all out, because I
That's
don't have
fine. Yeah.
time.
I mean, I know that some of the things you're not ready to reveal yet. So I'm not asking you to reveal the
Yeah.
specific details, but, so the question is really what's your plan going forward? Is it to, figure it out, get, like you said, get the pencil out, create a business, whatever it is. I'm just trying to find out where we're at now.
So it's a great question. So right now, I'm already doing the work. I'm helping people rewrite their stories is a big piece of it. Like, how you said, like, not everyone had a great family and all of this stuff. And I think I think it was at one of Joel Bauer's things, actually, where he said, like, there's an expiration date where you stop blaming your family for all of your problems, or your parents, or
Yeah.
whatever that is. And so helping people, like, move through whatever they've been through, whatever the trauma and drama is, and rewriting that story. And part of it is a little woo woo. There is some choice of, I'm not going to live in that old story anymore. I'm not 3 years old anymore, or 6 years old. I'm 40 years old or 50 years old. I can choose my path. And so helping people do that. And at the same time, getting the confidence to build their businesses and all of those things that I've done before. But I do feel like there's a big part of rewriting your story, recognizing all of your gifts, and then redesigning your business or your life or whatever it is in a systematic and intentional way. And that's what I've always done, and that's what I always will help people with. I think what happens is a lot of times people just go straight to, like, fixing their business. So they'll hire someone and say, oh, fix my business, but they have so much junk that they haven't worked through, that they haven't processed, and they haven't rewritten that story or really know what they're good at, and getting that confidence again. So helping people find all of that before they just go, I'm going to, get a business plan, and then I'm going to go forward and be successful. Most of the time that doesn't happen, because they have a lot of junk still. So it's kind of my purpose as well.
That's the great. So is that the kind of conflict that you experience along the way, or is there something else that comes,
Well, even for myself, rewriting my story, like, I had to rewrite my story so many times. And even now, as I'm thinking about pivoting into a new direction with things, it's about, like, saying, can I do this? Am I equipped? Do I really have the skills? I'm 50 years old. I just turned 50 this year. It's like a milestone year. I'm like, can I rewrite my story at 50? Can I rewrite it at 60? Can I rewrite it at 80? And the answer is yes. You can change it at any time. And so helping people to do that, and that's what's in store for me too. I'm the process, this year, for some reason, I just feel like getting really organized and just finding a new path is super important.
that's a great thing. And 2020, they say hindsight is 2020.
Yep, they sure do. Or 2020 vision. I got my 2020 vision
You
out
got
there.
2020 vision, hindsight is 2020. But it sounds like foresight might be 2020 as well. So I'm looking forward to that, and looking forward to seeing what you're doing. So let's take a look at, what have you achieved? What do we alluded to it earlier. So you work with clients, and thus far you've achieved a lot with people. So
I have.
I know we have a lot of aspirations to help families and all of that, but let's now celebrate a little bit of what you've been able to do in terms of your existing accomplishments and clients. So Barbara, what have you
Can I
achieved?
just brag about stuff? Say, like, how
Brag?
great I
Yeah,
am.
I want you to brag a little bit. What end result have you achieved? So it's not about, oh, I got them a couple more customers. It's, well, what's the end result that we're talking about?
That's a it's a really good question. I've helped people build sustainable businesses that they love, that are in alignment with their sole purpose. That to me is everything, because I don't know about you, but I worked in so many of those places that were crappy for years. I remember like that
Mm.
Sunday night, like all the anxiety, like, oh, I got to go to work tomorrow. I feel sick. I hate all those people. Like, yeah, all that blah. And helping people, I've helped people leave their, not lose their jobs, maybe that too, leave their jobs and start businesses aligned with their sole purpose. I mean, that's the ultimate, and they're successful businesses. And so every time I have a client that leaves me a testimonial, I had one last night that put a testimonial on my Facebook page, unsolicited, and telling me how we worked together. She got 6 clients right off the bat. She has 4 more, and her business is up and running. Like, that just makes my heart feel so good, because I just know that people can do it. I think that's one of my gifts, is I can see the possibilities for people. I will look at someone and say, like, Justin, you should be a speaker. You should be on like stages all across the world. And, you might say like, oh, well, I know you would probably say, yes, of course I should. But someone else, yeah, like the eyebrow raise. But
Who,
other people
me?
might be like, no, who, me? And I can see the possibilities for people, and then I can help them get there. And that to me is so exciting when like someone
Mm.
says, yeah, Barbara, I kind of always wanted to do that, but I don't know how to start. And helping them get there is, that's just, it's
That's a
so
wonderful
important.
thing to do, because the way I phrase it, because I do the same thing, is that I look at people at how they can become, not how they
Mhm.
are.
Right.
So not how they be, but what they can become. And I always have done that. And my favorite example of that is when I was managing this young fellow at Disneyland Paris, and they were about to fire him for gross misconduct. I won't get into all the details
Okay.
of it, HR and all that, but he was literally, the discussions among the management was, he's fired, he's gone. And I was like, let me try, because I could see what he could become. I saw
Mhm.
that. I get that you got a recalcitrant, annoying, back talking, policy violating. You got a bad steed and a bad apple right there. But it's not always true. But I could
Right.
totally see with this one what he could become. So I said, just
Yep.
leave him with. So I said, just give me 2 weeks. And so I took 2 weeks, and I won't tell all the story, because obviously this interview is about you. But the short
It's
version
okay.
is within 2 weeks they didn't fire him. He was doing not only great, but very quickly he had Facebook fan page set up for him, because he was so delighting his customers. And he was then promoted to management. And last I heard, he's in senior management in the same industry, in the theme park industry, in his home country in Holland. But this would have been a career-ending situation, to be fired for gross misconduct, negligence, and health and safety violations. That would have been the end for that industry. And now he's a leader in the industry.
Amazing.
I mean, that kind of thing is you know. I, but it was simple. It wasn't complicated. All it was is, I could see what he could become. I
Hmm.
could see that he could become this phenomenal, amazing, you know, leader and staff member, and not just what was in front of me. So that's all it was. It
And
wasn't
I
hard. It
agree.
wasn't
Like,
hard at all.
I remember when I was a kid and I just wanted to like stay home from school or something, and I was sick. And, all I wanted was my mom to be like, yes, just stay home. You look sick today. Instead of like, having to like beg and put the thermometer up near the
Oh, you
light. So
did that too.
it's going to be 100 and whatever, like 106. I didn't even know you could live like that,
Yeah.
but like all I wanted was permission. And sometimes I do feel like that's what people need. They need someone to see the vision and to tell them how they're going to, how they can get there, and believe in them. And again, it goes back to that confidence piece, which is so important, because there are so many times throughout our life where we're told we can't do this, or we're stupid for having these dreams, or, that's for somebody else, and all of that kind of stuff. And it just sticks with you. So it's like, for you to really like dream big again and remember what is it that you want to do and have someone confirm that you actually can get there, that's huge for folks. And I really do feel like that's a big part of the work. Of course, not telling people things they can't do. I mean, but if you can see it, and if you can help them see it, it's amazing. It's amazing what can happen. That happens time and time again with my clients. I look at someone, they come into my office or I meet with them virtually, and I literally can see, like I can see over their head what their blocks are, what's preventing them from walking into their power. And a lot of times I'll say things and people will burst out into tears, which is not a really good, it's not a great marketing tool. Like, hey, everyone, work with me. They'll burst out into tears. But just from that like relief that someone actually sees who they are. I actually had to get an office because of it. Like I was meeting people in coffee shops and then I'd be like, oh my God, you should do this. And they're like, burst into tears. I'm like, ooh, I probably need to get like a private area to talk to them. But that's what folks need sometimes.
And what does that mean to them? What does that mean to them when you're able to, so they're able to have this business, they're able to go in this direction that they've always dreamed of going in. So they're transformed. So what does that mean? What does that mean to them? And what does that mean to you?
It's that peace and freedom, and I think a lot of times we feel trapped, we feel trapped in our own, whether we do it to ourselves or we think someone else is trapping us or whatever it is. And this feeling of not feeling trapped, feeling like there are options and being able to just pivot or shift or change your path and not feeling stuck. Like I had one client and I was working with him and I said to him, he was in finance, and I'm like, every time I talk to you, I feel like you hate what you're doing. He's like, well, I don't really love it. And I'm like, okay, so if you were ignoring like your logical mind and you could do anything you wanted, what would you do? And he said, I want to have a flower shop. And I'm like, okay, so why don't you have a flower shop? And he's like, well, I told my family I would go into finance. They were in finance and I'm a man of my word. And there's like all of this stuff there. I'm like, you can't be a man of your word and change your mind. You can't be a man of your word and live your dream. And like, so we had to break stuff down. So he actually felt like, wait a second, I don't have to stay in this box forever. I can shift, I can do something different, and I still can be a man of my word. I can change my mind. And I think a lot of times people don't feel it. And so the relief that my clients have when someone actually says it's okay, and I'm going to hold your hand and walk you through that process so you're successful.
That's amazing.
It is. It's really fun. I mean, I love it. I really do. It's just, it's part of why I'm here. And so, I feel like a lot of the things that I went through, although they were awful, really prepared me for helping other people because I can connect with folks and I can relate to them. And I can hear anything, which is kind of fun. Like I don't get surprised by anything anymore. I mean, people come in my office and they're like, I want to be like a shaman. And then someone else is like, I want to own a multi-million-dollar, business consulting thing. I'm like, nothing surprises me. So it's
That's
fun.
so cool. Well, Barbra, this is the end. So before I finish off for today, is there anything that you would like to say, to ask, to leave our listeners, viewers? Because if the video looks good, I'll throw it on YouTube. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Just that you can rewrite your story, and you can shift it at any time in your life. And I just feel like that's the most important thing, is to realize that you can.
That's beautiful. And if anybody would like to get in touch with you and inquire about your services,
they
products,
can go to drbarblive.com, drbarblive.com, drbarblive.com. And I do a free discovery session with folks, a calibration session, if they after they fill out an application. So I would love to do that if anyone needs any help.
Get a taste of Dr. Portzline. They can get a taster.
Yep.
And if they like what they have, they can move forward. It's cost-free and risk-free.
Yep.
And if they don't like it, then
Oh,
There's
well,
nothing, no love lost. I
30
mean, it's
minutes of your
okay.
time, 30
It's
minutes of my
okay.
time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, and and there's only benefits that come of it because they've at least discovered something that they're not going to do,
Yep.
which is okay. Do you know what? It's okay. I'm not for everybody. You're not for, it's fine. It's fine. But the point is that people should go to find out more to drbarblive.com.
Yep.
DRBARBLIVE.com.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.